So originally I was going to respond to the video that was attached to this quiz, but after watching it I decided that most of the people seem nice, they seem like they're well-intentioned, and to be honest I don't really have a whole lot to say about the people who decide to do these things so much as the ideas behind them that I find ridiculous, because a lot of these people I could see them being, decent individuals who are just kind of brought in by the rhetoric of modern day feminism. But one exception to that, of course, is this chick right here, and what she says to this poor sap here at the end.
Feminism is my lifeblood. Yeah, I even wore my shirt today.
Dude, you see that shirt and you run right the fuck in the other direction. Okay, so we're just gonna do this. We're just gonna do this in real time. Okay, because it makes it easier, and that's how you know it's real. I said fuck, so that's how you know it's real. Okay, so number one, I would be willing to give up some of my salary if I had to, so that equal pay in my workplace could be a reality. Well, unfortunately for this quiz, equal pay already is a reality, and if somebody's getting paid more for doing the same job, either there is some sort of a problem there if they're doing the exact same thing, or, as an example, if you work in retail in certain stores, I know that people who work there longer make, say, a dime more an hour. If you've been with a company for a year, you may be doing the exact same job as somebody who just got hired, except you're making $10.10 an hour, whereas they're only making $10. But I'm assuming that this question is more referring to people who think that there is a huge wage gap, which, of course, I should put an obligatory montage in here of all the studies that have repudiated that, and if they have found anything, it's been a minute difference, and it wouldn't make any sense to pay women less than men for doing the same job, because they would just hire women then. You guys probably already know all these things, and you've heard these arguments before. But I think, and this might come up later in the quiz, one of the things that people get upset about is that they hear the same job title. They hear the same, like, oh, she's an actor and he's an actor, and they should be making the exact same amount of money. But that's not necessarily true either, because even though you can do the exact same job, you may not be getting paid the exact same amount based on the amount of revenue that you're generating. And that's true even for people who are like stand-up comics. Obviously, Louis C.K. makes a whole lot more than the guy who's at the local, the Comedy Cellar and is pretty unknown, and yet they're both comedians, they're both on the stage, they're both telling jokes. Why is that? Well, that's because Louis C.K. draws more people in, right? So, anyway, okay, so the second one, I would not click, fuck your test, I'm just responding to the questions. I believe that men and women should be equal. Of course, feminism does not have a monopoly on that idea. Egalitarianism is there as well. Or if you're one of those people who decides that they don't want to label themselves and they'd rather just be an independent thinker on these topics, you don't even necessarily have to label yourself. You can just say, I believe that men and women should be equal. You could literally say that, and then people would know, hey, this person believes that men and women should be equal. You don't have to point towards something like feminism or even egalitarianism if you don't want to. This can just be the belief, because this is what the ideology is based on anyway. This is what people's belief systems are based on, are these foundational beliefs in the first place. So number 3, I can't help but be bothered when a song includes misogynistic lyrics, even when I otherwise like the song. Honestly, I like music for the feeling that it gives me more than what the artist is trying to say a lot of times. Sometimes when, it might be a rap song and they're talking about whatever the fuck they talk about in rap songs, but I'm just feeling the music, and it's helping pump me up to do whatever it is that I want to do if I'm in a certain mood. If I want to go work out and I want a really upbeat song, I don't really care about the lyrics so much, so I don't really pay attention to that stuff, and I don't place so much weight on it either. If people are going to be delving so deep into this that they think that because there are lyrics that are like that, then why wouldn't you also make the argument about rappers or other people who talk about killing people, or they talk about cheating on their significant others or something? Don't you have a problem with that too? If you're trying to be morally superior, shouldn't it be across the whole thing? I know who Bell Hooks is, yeah, but who cares? I can define intersectional feminism. Unfortunately, I probably could, but I actually would take pride in the idea of not necessarily being able to define it all that well. I just know what I've heard tangentially from people who call themselves intersectional feminists, who believe that feminism should be about the plight of all women, and a lot of them think that it should also be about the plight of trans women, or just people who are more out of marginalized groups and all these things. And yet there's some who believe that trans women should not be part of feminism. I guess they would be defined as non-intersectional feminists. It's a bunch of vernacular that you don't necessarily need to get yourself bogged down in, because if you understand the ideas that, again, like I said earlier, the ideas that the ideology is based on fundamentally, then you'd have a better understanding of this stuff than people who rely on just using buzzwords like this. Number 6, I don't use the phrase "hey guys" when referring to a group of people that includes men and women. I usually say whatever the fuck I want when it comes to referring to groups of people. I might say, hey, everybody. I might say, hey, guys. I might say, hey, girls. I might say, hey, ladies, or something like that. Although, interestingly enough, the two former statements there almost sound a little strange, like that Dimitri Martin joke. If you ever want to make something weird or creepy, just add ladies to the end of it. You know, like, Timmy fell down the well. Ladies. Right, so it's like, hey, ladies, you know, that sounds almost like I'm trying to be that guy who thinks that he's good with women because he's so unaware of how bad he is with women that he thinks it's coming off as confidence. So this is just, I would just refer to people as they would, you know, I'd be like, hey, guys, hey, people, hey, everybody, whatever, doesn't matter. I have taken a woman's and or gender study class, no, and thank God for that. Good God. All of my classes, all of my electives, that is, were all science credits when I was in school and everything, but the only reason I say that is because the whole women and gender studies thing, I mean, you get enough of it from the people because God knows they love to tell everybody else about it. But at the same time, I don't think that there's anything wrong with, this is one of the problems that I have with this whole idea, is that I don't think there's anything wrong fundamentally with the idea of people who want to study gender or women's issues or men's issues or anything like that. It's just so easy to turn this into something that can then be used, as it is being used currently, to try and push an ideology on other people. I think that there is actually some very interesting research that could be done in gender studies classes. You know, if you really want to examine the differences and be honest with yourself and say, look, these are some fundamental, you know, structural differences between the way men and women approach these particular topics or something like that. But that's just not what happens with these people most of the time. I think it's important to encourage girls to pursue science and math as a career. I actually think it's more important to encourage people to pursue what they want to pursue, because I think pushing anybody into any field that they're not passionate about is not going to work out all that much. Now, I don't think that means that you should only let people do what they want all the time, because some people might just want to sit in their room all day and play video games, right? I think you should expose people to all sorts of different things and make those opportunities available, but I'm not going to say, hey, you're a girl, you should pursue science and math. What if she doesn't want to do that? You know, let her do what she wants. Maybe she'll be a great artist or a great, you know, professor of history or something like that. She should do whatever she wants. More power to her. Women should be allowed to apply for a job if they fulfill 60% of the job requirements. Okay, this may be a gap in my knowledge. I'm not sure if there's some sort of statistic out there that says that, you know, like, employers will look for only 60% of the job requirements being filled by the potential applicants, and it's more likely that men will have that than women or something. This question doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, unless they are literally saying, like, this is a new policy that we should enact. I feel like that's somewhat insane, unless it's already been enacted and people are acting on this. Because if you're saying you only fulfill 60% of the job requirements, what does that even mean? Like, oh yeah, I want to be a software engineer, and I know you say you want me to know about networks and Java and HTML and Python and all these things, but I actually only know some of Java and a couple of the other things, but I don't know any of the other stuff that you want, so I'm only 60% qualified. Do you think I could still do it? It's like, if you can't do the job, then what's the point of hiring you? That's what they need. They need somebody who can do the job, and preferably somebody who can do the job well. I think we should change women's bathroom symbols to not include traditionally feminine clothing, skirts, dresses, etc. I really don't care. I mean, I never understood why you couldn't just have a neutral symbol for the person anyway, and then just have the name under it or something. But I can understand why people would... you know, people are more prone to react to symbolism than they are to necessarily read the thing all the time. But I mean, does it really matter that much if you know, women wear dresses more than men in America? So it's easier to define. I don't really see why this is a big deal or makes me more of a feminist, more or less of a feminist. I believe trans people should be able to use whichever bathroom they identify with. This is a big problem, and of course this is the source of a national debate, and it's not necessarily that in a perfect world, for example, people should, you know, obviously if no one was going to get hurt and no one was in danger or anything like that, then, you know, people should be able to go into whatever bathroom they want. But the problem is that when that starts happening, you know, there are people out there who will take advantage of this system, and that's really what this debate is about. I don't have anything against, you know, somebody who wants to identify as something else. They're not hurting anybody, and if they feel like they should use the bathroom, whatever, okay? That doesn't matter. It's when you take these things to a large scale and you account for people who don't think like me, and I think the average person who doesn't care about this, but people who would genuinely try and exploit the system, that's when it gets really difficult, and that's true for everything. So this is a much bigger debate than a simple question like this. I believe it's important to encourage women to negotiate. I don't think this is any more different than question number 8. I think that, people should be exposed to things and see if they enjoy it or not. I mean, some women might hate negotiating and some women might enjoy negotiating. The same goes for men. I mean, I think anytime you say, like, oh, we should encourage women to do this thing, it's like, well, I think we should let them know that this is an option for them and see how they like it, but not necessarily force or even encourage them, right? I mean, it just seems like a little much. Like, let people live their lives, I believe Jennifer Lawrence should earn as much as her male co-stars. It depends. I mean, is Jennifer Lawrence the reason why people are seeing these movies a lot of times? I mean, this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, which is that certain actors, comedians, entertainers have more of a draw than other people, right? You don't pay the headliner. You're not going to pay the headliner as much as the opener. That's just how it is, right? People are there to see the guy who they're there to see, and the opener's there to warm up the crowd. And so the same goes for actors. I mean, like you could say Jennifer Lawrence was in that movie with Christian Bale and Bradley Cooper. She should be paid just as much, but her role was much smaller, and this is true for everybody. I mean, I don't know the salaries of all actors and all that stuff, but I'm assuming that if there's a main person who's in the front, they're going to get paid more than people who are in the back. Like Johnny Depp probably got paid more for Pirates of the Caribbean than Keira Knightley's father, the actor for that guy, right? I mean, they should be paid. They should be paid the same in that case. I don't necessarily think that's. I don't think that's their people are coming there for that particular person. If people are coming to see Jennifer Lawrence, then great, pay her. But I mean, they probably have very high level demographic, statisticians who go through all this stuff, and they're like, oh, people want to see Jennifer Lawrence for this. People want to see more Christian Bale, and so on and so forth. So it really should be based on how much work you're actually doing. I do not think that a movie should be released unless it passes the Bechdel test. I think this is absolutely insane. I as far as I remember, this Bechdel test thing is that, like, it needs to include 2 women who I think it's that are talking in the movie, and it's not about a man, and they have to be named, or that's like an extra thing. Like, fuck your requirements for a movie. You're not making the movie. Get that through your fucking head. Nobody has to satisfy some sort of requirement that you set for their artwork. Fuck yourself. I believe all genders are entitled to the same social and political rights. I mean, are we defining gender as man and woman here? Sure. I mean, if you want to start identifying as an attack helicopter, then, I mean, personally, I believe you should probably be president of the United States. Okay, I can explain why 78 cents to the dollar is not a fully accurate description of the gender wage gap. Yeah, because it's not fucking true. I believe that women who possess certain types of privilege are responsible for advocating for women who don't have their level of privilege. No, because this is one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, so you're what is this concept of privilege now we're talking about? First you need to define that, and then you need to say, okay, so are all people of a certain skin tone benefiting from this privilege? And then does that mean that all people who have that skin tone should then be responsible for advocating for women? So it's like all white women, even white women who don't want to prescribe to any of these sorts of beliefs, should be advocating for this? You're roping all of these things into such general statements, and the whole concept of privilege is ridiculous to begin with. The idea that somehow, only white people benefit from the actions of the people who came before us. Every single person alive today benefits from the actions of every person who came before them. That's what humanity is. It's an unbroken chain of human knowledge and innovation and discovery and technology and all of these things. None of us would be able to be here. You wouldn't even be able to make this fucking quiz on the computer had it not been for the achievements of the people who came before you. What does it matter what their fucking skin tone is? It's ridiculous. If I had a daughter, I would encourage her to be anything she wanted to be. Absolutely. I would make it clear to my daughter from an early age that her identity should never be defined by her relationship status. Yeah, I think that it's important to indenture a strong, independent feeling of security in every person in this world if they're going to get through, because the last thing that you would ever want, at least I would ever want for my daughter, is for her to feel like she had to rely on somebody else to get something when she could just get that from having a strong core in and of herself. I believe it's important to compliment a woman's intelligence over her looks. No, I think that there's a personal distinction that needs to be made here. If you find a woman to be intelligent, you want to compliment her on that, great. If you find a woman who looks attractive, you want to compliment her on that, great. If you find one who does both, fantastic. Whatever. Compliment anybody how you want, and don't feel like you have to place precedent over one or the other. Just be a human being. I believe that a woman has the right to choose what happens to her body. This is a much more difficult topic than what it comes out to be. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily pro-life or I'm definitely leaning more towards the pro-choice side because it is a person's body. But you also have to understand that the product of sexual intercourse is a result of the actions of two individuals, and to say that the father, the sire of this child, has no say in the matter at all whatsoever, it's a little bit difficult. I mean, presumably you've entered into an accord in the beginning where you said, okay, we're going to agree to engage in this action, and then we will reap the consequences together. Unless, of course, there's some sort of, forced, coercive sex, obviously like rape or some sort of incest thing. If the woman didn't want to get pregnant or something, I can see why, the ball should be in her court. But if it's a mutual agreement that you guys enter into, and then the woman decides to change her mind or something, I mean, I think that this is a much more difficult topic than can be condensed into a however long video. But I do believe that people should have the right to choose what happens in those cases that I mentioned, and I think that the discussion should definitely be had about the other cases as well. In an instance of sexual assault against a female, I am inclined to believe the assaulted person is telling the truth until proven otherwise. No, because this is assuming that the person who is accused is guilty until proven innocent, as opposed to innocent until proven guilty. So that's just a ridiculous statement. I mean, this is like, it's like saying, okay, now you can accuse anybody that you want, and then they have to prove that they didn't do it. Like, how dare you interject yourself into somebody else's life for whatever fucked up reason you've decided to accuse them of something, and then now they have to, the burden of proof is on them. I'm obviously against rape, and I don't think that it's okay that happens, but this doesn't help the problem at all, switching the burden of proof like that. I can explain Marlene Dietrich's influence on women's fashion. Don't care. I know what a bad feminist is, and my answer would probably upset a lot of people who think that they are quote-unquote good feminists. I believe that women should be able to dress however they want without dictating how they are treated by society. Well, I mean, people are going to treat you differently based on the way you dress, just to begin with. I mean, we have to understand that clothing, fundamentally, from reasoning from the first principles, we would have to say that clothing is just, it's there to maintain some sort of dignity. We don't go around being naked all the time because we understand that people can look at other people's bodies and have certain reactions, right? I mean, this is just how it is, and this is how our biology is. So, I mean, when you're talking about the different way in which you choose to clothe yourself, there are obviously going to be differences based on how you choose to, what clothes you choose to wear, and people may treat you differently. Now, I don't think you should be discriminated against, I'm not saying this is some sort of victim blaming thing or whatever, but I mean, if you walk into a job interview and you've decided that you're going to wear the jeans that you have with holes in them and your smelly t-shirt with stains on it or something, regardless of whether or not you're a man or a woman, you're going to be treated differently, and rightfully so. I mean, if you can't show that in that particular case you at least have the decency to respect the company and the view that they've wanted and the image that they're trying to project, then I don't think that it makes a whole lot of sense for them to treat you in some way that they would treat somebody who does have that level of respect, because you're not respecting them. I have never said that a woman asked for it. Well, I guess I just read the sentence. So does that hurt? Does that make it bad? I am offended by catcalling. I mean, I think that when people say nice things to people on the street, it can oftentimes get taken poorly by the people who hear it. And I do think that there's a way to do it that's kind of, that can be kind of nice. Someone who, I mean, some random stranger who comes up and just says, like, hey, you're beautiful, have a wonderful day. That almost seems like a nice thing. Like, I mean, I can understand why someone would be like, hey, I shouldn't have to, people shouldn't feel like they should be able to talk to me like that. But I get accosted by people all the time who I don't necessarily want to have to, and I don't think that it should be a crime or something. Now, that doesn't take into account the genuinely upsetting idea of, maybe you're running every day, you take a certain trail, and then there's construction on that trail, and the construction workers are constantly harassing you and saying sexual things and stuff. I think that's bullshit. But there's a lot more to this. But that's, catcalling can be one or the other, and I think that a certain form of complimenting somebody, which I wouldn't call catcalling, is okay, and then the other stuff obviously is not okay. I don't think women should get VIP treatment at nightclubs and bars just for being women. I mean, I guess it just depends. If the bars feel like they can bring more people in and get more business, then they're probably going to take that route. And if they could do it to men, they would probably do that too. I think police brutality and its correlation with race is a feminist issue. I don't even see how you could structure this question and reach that conclusion. I think police brutality and its correlation with race is a feminist issue. I mean, by definition, which feminists seem to love so much, feminism is about men and women, not necessarily about race. So it doesn't seem like it would be included in your definition. I think we should stop promoting models as the ideal female body type. Well, what kind of models are we talking about? Aren't there some feminists out there who want gigantic, morbidly obese women like Tess Holliday to be the female models? Isn't that what they want? So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but I think models are just examples of what body types could look like. And I think people really got to take into account how much work those people put into their bodies and how that is their life. And I think it's more about educating the populace on that particular topic. Like when you see a bodybuilder and he's in a competition or she's in a competition or whatever, or even before competition, most of the time you're seeing them when they're like dehydrated and they've been on an incredibly low carb diet and they're just lifting their brains out and just sleeping as much as they possibly can. And it's not really realistic. And the same goes for a lot of models. So I would say that we shouldn't necessarily... I don't think that anybody should, look to these people who doesn't know what goes into that. If I think if you did know what went into that, you'd be much more inclined to be like, that's what they look like, but that's just because that's their life. I think it's more about educating people to understand, because once you get that realization, I feel like it's much easier to be able to look at somebody and be like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if I did that, I might look like that too. I think we should stop photoshopping women's bodies in the media. I don't know, man. Photoshop is everywhere. Like, if you think you're going to get rid of Photoshop... I'm not just talking about women's bodies. I mean, just in general. If you think you're going to get rid of Photoshop, that's crazy. I mean, I don't really see how if it's any different for women's bodies than it is for anything else. I mean, you're Photoshopping so much. I mean, faces on the cover of magazines, which, of course, is also men. So it's like, you basically have to say, we should just take Photoshop out of the equation. And, again, I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense for the people who are selling the business. They know that people want to see other stuff. I have never called a woman bossy. Now, usually if there's ever been a woman who genuinely made me feel like she was trying to, if she was being imperious, I would usually just call her a cunt. I wouldn't say bossy. I mean, bossy sounds like, it's like a child's word. Like, oh, she's so bossy. It's like, no, she's a fucking cunt. I mean, if she's trying to assume authority over other people and tell them what to do, that's not how you treat adults. That's not how you treat people who deserve respect. Adults treat other adults with respect. That's what society is founded on. The idea that you respect me, I respect you, that's just it. So if you think that you're going to boss me around, you're probably just a cunt. Or a bitch. Or both. You're a bitchy cunt. I think companies should offer more child-friendly time and programs to women who are having children. I definitely think that there's something to be said for the fact that women do get pregnant and have to spend at least 9 months of their lives, most likely more, carrying around a child. And I do think that presents more unique issues for women than it does for men. And I think that this is definitely a topic that should be talked about, if there isn't already things that are in place. I'm not advocating one or the other. I'm just saying that it's probably something that warrants a little bit more consideration. I believe that a woman should be offered the same opportunities for promotion as her male coworkers. Sure, I mean, if she does good work and she's productive like somebody else, I mean, you shouldn't just be offered a promotion because you're a woman. But if you do good work and you want to climb up the corporate ladder, go for it. Nothing's stopping you. Just got to put in the hours. I believe that if a woman wants to pay on a date, her date should let her. Yep, sure, do it. Maybe we'll split it. We'll go half and half. I believe that a woman should have easy access to birth control. I believe that women should have easy access to birth control. Yeah, I mean, I know it's much more difficult for women because there's a lot more going on there than it is with men. So this is a tough one because it's not just like you can't just say yes, of course I believe that this should happen. It's also a matter of taking into account the costs associated with it and the distribution, and of course certain women need certain types of birth control because they want it to certain ones that they're on might cause them to break out. Other ones might cause them to feel better. Some of them might cause their periods to be irregular and all these things. And so it's one of those things that it's like, yeah, I think that people should have access to that, but who's going to make all that stuff and where's the money coming from? It's a deep topic. I believe that in a relationship, the domestic duties should be shared. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, if I'm going to work and make all the money and my wife just wants to stay home and keep the house clean, as long as she's happy with her life and she feels like that fulfills her, then she does whatever she wants. That's fine. I mean, people should, they're adults. They should be able to come to an agreement. I think that a couple should have equal responsibility over the aesthetic and cleanliness of their home. Again, people are adults. They should be able to come to agreements. I believe that men should be encouraged to be involved and make choices in the wedding plan process. Again, people are adults. They should be able to come to an agreement. I believe that men and women have the same emotional strength. I think individuals differ when it comes to levels of strength in any regard, whether it be emotional, physical, social, intellectual, whatever. And I don't think that you can just rope all men and all women into one or another category. I do not think that it is the responsibility of a man to protect a woman physically. You may not, but some motherfucker tries some shit with me, and he's going to be going through me, not her. And I understand that because obviously she's not as physically capable as me. That's just on average how it is for men and women, especially in my case. I believe that men and women should be equally encouraged to express their emotions. If people want to get help for that kind of stuff and they feel like they can't do that, I think that that's okay. I do understand where this question's coming from, because it says I think that women are more likely to express their emotions, and of course this comes down to the individual, and it's one of those things that historically speaking, evolutionarily speaking, men who are stoic were valued more, because it's a lot harder to continue the hunting party when some guy's panicking because he's lost his leg, and then everybody else's morale is so low that they just want to give up and all go in different directions because they're so afraid. But we live in a society today where we don't really have to worry about that kind of stuff, so I think it can be difficult for a lot of people to express their emotions. And maybe some special care should be placed on men to make it not so much of a stigma to do that kind of stuff. But again, individuals are different, and I think this starts on the individual level. It shouldn't be one category or the other. I have never asked a woman why she does not have children. That is correct. I would never be so rude as to say that in this way. If I asked it, it would be a very inquisitive thing. I'd be like, so do you mind if I ask you why it is that you've decided not to have children or something? I would never be like, why don't you have kids? Which is, I think, what this is getting at. I would be equally excited to have a son or a daughter. Absolutely. I think American workplace culture is often not structured in a way that is helpful or encouraging to women succeeding. I don't know. I haven't been all around American workplace culture, but the jobs that I have had and worked, and the university that I went to, seem to be pretty, in terms of the university's structure and their faculty, seem to be pretty okay for men and women. I mean, I think an argument could be made one way or the other, but it comes down to those individual situations and not necessarily a broad brush, which seems to be a running theme with this quiz. I think women have a responsibility to help and encourage other women to pursue their goals. No, I mean, if some woman doesn't necessarily want to do that. You see, anytime you say, like, I think group X has a responsibility to group Y, or in this case, group X plus 1 or whatever, it's weird, because you're saying it's almost like you're trying to say that people who don't do this are somehow morally inferior, and I just don't believe that that's the case. People who don't want to participate in your ideology do not have to participate in your ideology. Again, let me reiterate, you have no moral high ground. You are not morally superior just because you call yourself a feminist or anything else. The moral excellence that you might strive to achieve starts from the fundamental principles. And this bastardization of taking it from those fundamental principles to, hey, now this one ideology has all of those, we've seen how that works out in history in the world, and this is not the way to do it. I think women are equally capable to men to be president of the United States. Sure, if they fit for the office, why wouldn't they be? I believe that women have no responsibility to make a conscious effort to always be friendly and polite. I think people who live in a society in general, it would serve them well to be friendly and polite to people, because if you're not friendly and polite, you're probably coming off as a dick, and nobody wants to be around somebody like that. So that's not women or men, that's both. Everybody has a responsibility in a society, in a place where you are with other human beings, to try and be nice to them. No one appreciates an asshole. I have never criticized a woman for not wearing makeup or wearing too much makeup. I've only ever inquired about it, but if a woman wants to wear makeup, a lot of it, or not a whole lot of it, then that's her choice. It's not really, I don't really care. I believe a woman is a woman, if that is what she calls herself, regardless of her physical attributes and makeups. I believe that she believes that she's a woman, if that's what she calls herself, regardless of her physical attributes and makeup. But that's very different from how the world might view her. And the world might say, well, you may think that you are a woman, but that, and for the most part, we can all entertain that idea. But I think that there's a lot more here to it than just simply, oh, if somebody says that they are something, then we should all just start believing that they are that thing. I think that that's a rabbit hole that when you go down it, you start to realize, look, I'm not against what you believe, as long as it's not hurting anybody, right? But if you start then saying that you have special rights, or you have some sort of special accommodations or things like that, that's when things start to get a little tricky. Like that guy who believes, a 52-year-old man who believes he's a 9-year-old girl or something like that. That's where things start to get a little weird, because he wants to go to kindergarten, he wants to go be around children all the time, and that's it's not just strange, it can be dangerous, and those things can be tough.